As if 2022 couldn't get any more insane in wrestling, it did over the weekend, following a backstage altercation after All Out. And we've got all the details here compiled from various sources. Ross.
Thank you first and foremost to PW Insider, who have released the following report detailing how the situation after All Out developed. After Punk's rant at the presser about Colt Cabana, and about the EVPs, there was a confrontation between himself and the EVPs in Punk's locker room. The Bucks got into a physical altercation with Punk, but at the moment, it's unclear who threw the first punch. Kenny Omega is said not to have got physically involved with CM Punk, so he's a big old you-know-what.
But he did get physically involved with this man, a man that, honestly, barely heard his name for the last, 10, 15 years.
It was just in that Punk, the documentary DVD that WWE put out. He's the guy who trained me. He's the guy who broke me in. Now he's cutting promos like...
He's all over the place. Ace Steel arrived, and he did get into an altercation with Omega, hence the earlier rumors that came out on social media of Steel biting Kenny. Fightful Select have added that Steel is also said to have thrown a chair at Nick Jackson, which gave him a black eye and possibly knocked him silly. So there was a lot of talk about one of the Jacksons being knocked out. So it appears that that was indeed Nick. A source close to Fightful said that Steel is lucky not to be in jail. One possible reason for him being so aggressive is that his wife was apparently in the vicinity, looking after Punk's dog. Fightful add that there's an incredible amount of heat on Steel in the fallout, and several sources believe that he won't be welcomed back in AEW from now on.
Now, Tony Khan has to come down on Ace Steel like a ton of bricks, you would assume, because he set the precedent there with Eddie Kingston and Sammy Guevara. Eddie Kingston pie-face Sammy Guevara, gets a 2-week suspension. There's rumours that obviously Ace Steel has bitten a man and thrown a chair at another man, so he surely has to get a little bit more than just what Eddie Kingston got.
Gone. You know what? It's easy to go, hey, it's wrestling. It's not ballet, pal, and the locker room is a rough place. It shouldn't be like that anymore, and ultimately it's a workplace, and he's assaulted a man.
Yeah, big time. And I would say, look at ballet dancers' feet. Yeah, wrestling's not like ballet dancing indeed, because they're really hard. But he would have to say, just impress his wife while she was looking after Punk's dog. I thought that would have set the dog off. Poor little Larry.
Good point.
Hey, think about the dog's welfare in this, you prick.
What about Larry?
PW Insider then go on to explain that many staff and security then separated the two sides, and the argument continued for a while until the Bucks and Omega left. Tony Khan wasn't present for any of this, as this happened while he was still on stage at the presser. Friends on either side, like FTR and Hangman Page, had already left the venue as they weren't needed for the media scrum. You just get them all involved, man. Ready to rumble, Royal Rumble,
exactly.
Come on.
Get the cameras out. You can see it all kick off during the presser when the tag champs are there chatting away. You see security peg it out, and there's a bit of an interaction between Tony Khan and Chris Jericho.
Yeah,
as
right
well.
at the end of Chris Jericho's bit, you saw here. I think someone's upped the audio on Twitter or something like that, and you just hear Chris Jericho going, "Something's kicked off back there, man," something along those lines there. So Chris Jericho, as we'll find out later, played a very wholesome and key role in proceedings during this big altercation.
Hell of a guy. PW Insider have heard from numerous people within AEW taking one side or the other. Some blame Punk for his rant, others blame Kenny and the Bucks for going into his locker room and starting the confrontation, knowing that they would outnumber him. There's also some who are sympathetic toward MJF because his big return got overshadowed. Normally, I would, and I do feel a bit sorry for MJF because everybody right now should be talking about MJF. Not many people are talking about MJF. However, MJF did the same to bloody poor old Wardlow.
Yeah, and Wardlow said as much in the media, saying everyone should have been going cock-a-hoop about my big first title win, but instead they're speaking about MJF not going to a meet and greet, getting on a plane, allegedly getting off a plane. I don't know what happened there. So yeah, what goes around comes around, Maxwell, eh? You know what I mean?
I've got no sympathy.
No, not at all. Not any sympathy for the devil. That was a reference to
it.
Good that. Here we go then. Chris Jericho news. Fightful have added there's a lot of admiration towards Chris Jericho because I wonder who told Fightful this news for his calm demeanour in front of the media despite all the goings on backstage. As I say, there wasn't much to what Chris Jericho did other than there's something going on backstage, Tony, man, just as he's leaving.
He held it all together, Ross. It says so here from an anonymous source.
He must have been in turmoil on that stage. How he held it together, we have no idea. And we continue from Fightful's report from an unnamed source, and more generally for his leadership qualities in recent weeks, including speaking at the recent talent meeting, etc., etc., etc.
He's just a chilled out entertainer, you know? It's so David Brent. It's so David Brent. We can't confirm if Chris Jericho was indeed the man that sent that glowing review of Chris Jericho to Fightful. Make your own minds up, eh? AEW management is staying tight-lipped on the situation, the altercation for now, but the belief is that they are trying to work out who's to blame and the appropriate course of action going forwards. I mean, this could lead to actual legal issues. Like we talked about it there, but the Ace Steel stuff especially, if there's truth to the reports about the biting, the chair throw, he's knocked a man out with a chair. It's serious stuff.
Yeah, it's a workplace environment. You know, where Tom on Twitter last night saying if he did that to one of us and then smacked me, I don't know what I did to Tom to get that sort of thing on social media. Hey, he would be sacked, wouldn't he?
Listen. Nah, he's great. No. Everybody came to your defense very quickly to say, oh, Ross would spark you out, Tom. And Tom was like, yeah, I know that. I was just saying.
But why pick on me, Tom? If you want to have a word, pal, I'll see you in the car park. Little Ross. I'll see you in the car park there, pal. You know, I paid your bills for so long, right? I paid them for so long, and so long I paid those bills. But you didn't do anything. You share a bank account with your mum, don't you? Tom, I see you coming. I'll do some stuff in front of Pablo. That'll upset Pablo. Like, bite your good lady. I'll bite your good lady, Tom. Tony Khan, the pressure is on, I would assume.
Keep going, we can get a boxing match out of this. There's big money.
There's a lot of pressure on Tony Khan, though, isn't there now? Because obviously, as I said earlier, he set the precedent with Eddie Kingston and with Sammy Guevara. Ace Steel's done something a lot more severe. We don't know what role, quite what role Omega and the Bucks have played in this, and Punk as well. So surely he's got to do something, because watching Tony Khan on that stage, it was quite... He was pathetic, wasn't he? For a guy's boss just to sit there and watch Punk just say all of this stuff on a public forum. You know, there's been a lot of comparisons, obviously, going back to Bret and Shawn in the 90s and whatnot, and what it would have been like, you know, if that happened in the social media age. But all of their stuff, by and large, I know there was little references with the Sunny stuff on Raw and all that, you know, reading between the lines, but there wasn't anything overt, was there? Like what CM Punk did, just word for word, just spitting all this sort of stuff that should have been dealt backstage in private.
It was embarrassing for Tony. He looked like a complete sucker, and he just sat there and took all. And all he had to do actually was
stop, Phil.
Yeah.
Stop.
Or just
I pay your bills, Phil. Stop.
Just say, listen, hey, Phil's remarks don't reflect that of AEW's, and then deal with it off camera quickly and immediately. I guess the fight had all kicked off by then, but Tony did not look like a leader, and I think that's exactly what the company needs right now. There's no like big locker room lead. Like for so long, you had like the Undertaker in WWE, although he wasn't there in like an official capacity. He wasn't like, but he was essentially like the go-between between Vince and the boys.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure you've really got that. People have said in the past that it's Punk, but that certainly doesn't appear to be the case.
I think he left earlier this year, and that would be Cody Rhodes, because it seems a lot of this sort of stuff is kicking off after Cody Rhodes left. There was a fascinating little bit on Reddit over the weekend there where Cody, at the start of this year, right at the start of the year when he was the TNT champion, was speaking about sort of the elite, or the EVPs going at loggerheads with the XWE guys backstage and who would come out on top of all them. Was that him playing just sort of silly buggers and having fun and ribs with the boys and all that sort of stuff? Or was that him sort of foreshadowing, seeing the writing on the wall and thinking, hey, I don't want to be a part of this, I'm going to get out of here and go and make millions in the Fed?
Well, he didn't even want to be an EVP by the end of it anyway, did he? Well, he wanted to, you know, he was going to step away from all of that and just be a wrestler. It's clear in this case that the friendship isn't really there. It's a company that was built on friendship and lots of Tony's dad's money, and it needs to be a professional relationship. It's a business, isn't it? It's a business, and I don't know. I find the whole thing embarrassing. You've now got equally embarrassingly people questioning whether this is a work or a shoot, as if this was a shoot, it reflects well on AEW. It's genius, isn't it? AEW look really stupid right now.
Yeah, it's just the precedent they've set this year themselves, because it seems like it's happening a lot. Because I was just saying on social media, get rid of Rampage, just get the cameras backstage, totally Elite Diva, something like that. Get it on the air on a Friday. Way more interest than Rampage, because it feels like over the last little while they've had enough content to fill several series of something like that, and they've blurred the lines on so many times. I can't think of a multitude of occasions, but there has been lots, hasn't there, over the last little while, where they've blurred the lines between reality and storyline. They've turned reality into a storyline with MJF, I feel, and his departure and whatnot, and then return. It's I don't know what to make about any of it, but it is interesting. It's more interesting than the wrestling itself, I would argue.
It's certainly more fun than the pay-per-view was.
But I just need Tony just to do something, because watching him go to Punk at the end. But would you mind if I had a can of your juice there, Mr. Punk? I thought that was a fascinating insight of their relationship.
Agreed. There was no respect on Punk's part, and Punk at one point just like cut Tony off as well. Tony tried to get a word in.
He was like, "This isn't yours, this isn't your thing to clarify or something like that." He's like, "Yeah, you don't speak to a boss like that, do you?"
It's just embarrassing.
Yeah,
really embarrassing. So I imagine we've probably seen the last of Ace Steel, which is tragic because he was such an integral part of their programming. And I don't know, we'll see. Do you think that we'll see any of these men on Dynamite this week?
We'll see MJF reference it. Mm-hmm. I think we'll see the Acclaimed reference it.
Yep.
I don't know if we'll see any of the parties involved. You would assume we'd see the Bucks since they got a big title win. Punk, would he be taken out the firing line? I've got no idea. But it wouldn't be that'd be completely against what he's done in the past. I think he'll be out there first, just making reference to it in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
Or has Tony Khan now lost confidence in Punk maybe after he went into business for himself, after Hangman went into business for him? I don't know what to make about any of it.
I think one of the worst things that Tony did was say that how important Punk was. Like, he put Punk on this pedestal and it's just like, hey, this is the thing, this is the key. This takes us from a company here to a company up here who's going to compete with that company over there. It's the Punk show. And Punk is a man with an ego, and I think that was clearly on display at that presser. And Punk, I think, maybe thinks that he could get away with anything. I'm not saying that Punk doesn't have a point, like Hangman going into business for himself and all of that stuff, but it wasn't the time nor the place. It was a really unprofessional thing to do, and I think Tony has to lay the bloody law down.
Yeah, I think the crux of his message was quite nice. Like, these young kids need to just, take a step back and listen to their elders and all that sort of stuff, and people you name drop like Terry Funk. But I think the way he went about it and the sort of topics he touched on and the way, stepping on your own dick and all that sort of stuff and, calling out the EVPs and calling them dumb whatevers, I thought that was wrong. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
It's like they've got sponsors and advertising and stuff. It's meant to be a proper big company, and it makes them look really low rent. It makes them look carny,
Yeah. We keep our arguments behind the scenes, as Tom shouted out last night. There we go. Coming out later today, we have WTF moments for Clash at the Castle. Anything else to plug?
We got second news video. You got WTF tomorrow as well. No, that's about... one more video from Cardiff going up tonight as well.
And thank you if you got me a beer and took a picture, which was generally nice in Cardiff.
Did you have a nice weekend?
It was fantastic. Cardiff was on fire. The crowd were really loud. The show was very, very good, despite the very weird ending. I didn't know what to make about that.
Did you sing along?
No, well, of course I did. Strongbow Dark Fruits was getting served in that stadium for £6.50 a pop, and they were very cold. Of course I was singing along. It was very funny where I think Drew was starting to sing Sweet Caroline, and they sort of cut him off, remembering that's the national anthem of England, not Wales. But apart from that, it was a fantastic way to end the show and put smiles on people's faces, just like AEW does.
Did you think it was off the air when that was happening? Of course.
Yeah, that's a typical Stone Cold Steve Austin and Rock segment after the cameras were off the air. Did it end? When did it end on the air?
We saw a bit of Wonderwall, and then Drew literally goes, "Are we still on the air? Yeah, you're still on the air. Keep it rolling." And bloody that song, after being beaten by an American bloke. A Scottish bloke beaten by an American bloke in Wales. That song. I know it's Tyson Fury's thing. It's so good.
Symbolic. Hey, there we go though. See you for news video and a little tickle. Goodbye, everybody.